Safety pays, carelessness slays. Don't let foolishness number your days. Yes, my dear students, in this pandemic situation of COVID-19, safety is the most important thing. Wear mask, keep social distancing, and avoid going in public gatherings. Welcome to all to the online class with Mrs. Tripti Sharma. This is our English language class and the topic is active and passive voice. In this chapter, we shall study what is voice, kinds of voice, what is an active voice, what is a passive voice, and rules to convert active voice into passive voice. Dear students, we all know that verb means action words. So verbs have 5 properties: voice, mood, tense, person, and number. And my dear children, we know that verbs have 2 grammatical voices: active voice and passive voice. So dear children, we very well know that verb has 5 properties: voice, mood, tense, person, and number. We also know grammatically there are 2 voices: active voice and passive voice. We know that voice is a form of verb. And there are 2 voices in English grammar: active voice and passive voice. So what is the difference between these 2 voices? So first we shall understand what is an active voice. Active voice means that a sentence has a subject that acts upon its verb. We can also say that a verb is in the active voice when it shows that the subject is the doer of the work. Let's understand it with the help of examples on the screen. Cats catch mice. Verb is catch. Cats is the subject. And who is the doer of catching mice? It is subject. So subject is doing the work. Subject is the doer. As subject is the doer, so this sentence is in active voice, or the form of the verb in this sentence is in the active voice. The next example on the screen is Mithilesh drinks milk. And here Mithilesh is the doer. It means Mithilesh is doing the work of drinking milk. As Mithilesh, the subject is the doer of the work. So again here the form of the verb is in the active voice. Dear children, In active voice, we learnt that subject is the doer of the work, or a subject acts upon its verb. But in the passive voice, the subject is the recipient of a verb's action. Or it can be said, a verb is in the passive voice when its form shows that something is done to a person. Let's understand with the help of examples. Mice are caught by cats. See, the action of catching the mice is done to the person, to the subject. In the active voice, subject, the doer was cats. But in the passive voice, we say that the action is done to the subject, to the person. So, the mice are caught by cats. Milk is drunk by Mithilesh. In active voice, we studied Mithilesh drinks milk. Here, in the active voice, Mithilesh was the subject. Mithilesh was the doer of the work. And here, the work is done to the person, to Mithilesh. So, milk is drunk by Mithilesh. So, dear students, in short, we can say in active voice, the focus is on what subject does. And in the passive voice, the focus is on the action. In the active voice, the focus is on what subject does. And in the passive voice, our focus is on the action. We can understand it with this example on the screen. Ravan killed Jatayu. Here the focus is on what subject does. And what subject does? Killed Jatayu. So it is in active voice. Jatayu was killed by Ravan. See, the focus is on the action. What is the action? Jatayu was killed by Ravan. So, when the focus is on what subject does, it is called active voice. Means where subject is the doer, or where the focus is on what subject does. Then it is active voice. And when the focus is on the action, or an action has been done to the subject, then it is called passive voice. Dear students, let's discuss some important rules for changing active voice into passive voice. Rule number 1 is on the screen. The object of the verb in the active voice becomes the subject of the verb in the passive voice. It means when we change the active voice into the passive, the subject goes into the predicate. This has been explained here. In the active voice, the structure of the sentence is subject plus verb plus object. It means subject is followed by verb and verb is followed by an object. But in the passive voice, the subject goes into the predicate. So the structure is object plus verb plus subject. Object of the verb has come to the place of subject of the verb. So here object is followed by the verb and verb is followed by the subject. Rule number 2. Dear students, when we change the active voice into the passive, the sentence undergoes two major changes. The subject goes into the predicate and the verb undergoes few changes. First, put a suitable auxiliary verb, and second, change the verb into past participle of the verb. Past participle of the verb means third form of the verb. See the example. Raju eats cake. It is in active voice. Cake is eaten by Raju is in passive voice. Is eaten, see the auxiliary verb plus past participle form of the verb. Rule 3. The preposition by is generally used before the doer of the action. Doer of the action means the subject, and we know that when we change the active voice into the passive, the sentence undergoes two major changes. First, the subject goes into the predicate and verb undergoes few changes. So, dear students, we know the subject of the verb in the active voice becomes the object of the verb in the passive voice. So, in the example, Raju eats cake. Raju is the doer. Raju is the subject of the verb. And see, in the passive voice, Raju has become object of the verb in the passive voice. And see, the preposition by is used before Raju. Rule number 4. Dear students, while changing the voice of the sentence, the tense remains the same. See the example. Raju eats cake. The verb is eats and it is present simple tense. See the passive voice. Cake is eaten by Raju. The voice has changed, but the tense is same. It means while changing the voice of the sentence, the tense remains the same. Rule number 5. Dear students, while changing active voice into passive voice, there is no change in the articles. See the example on your screen. I shall water the plants. It is active voice and the article is the. The plants will be watered by me. See, there is no change in the articles. And this is the last rule. Rule number 6. Dear students, while changing active voice into passive voice, the type of a sentence remains the same. It means if the sentence in the active voice is negative, the sentence will remain negative in the passive voice also. If the sentence in the active voice is interrogative, then the sentence will remain interrogative in passive voice too. See the examples. We did not read the letter. The letter was not read by us. Did the police arrest them? Were they arrested by the police?